what's happening right now, okay, your picking hand is making the correct motions for the sweep picking. You know, it's not like we're doing two weird downstrokes that's holding us back. You know, this hand is pretty good.
Cool.
And it's not like this hand we're leaving two notes pressed down. Sometimes it was creeping a little bit, but for the majority, this is really good. The one thing holding you back right now is getting these two guys locked together.
So it's a synchronization problem.
Yes, the two hands are just slightly out of sync right now.
All right.
So
how do I fix that?
Good question. I'm about to get onto that. So in order to fix this, what we need to do is to essentially make the exercise a little bit more difficult, so that essentially we're just going to pick some more notes for the amount of motions that are happening in the fretting hand. So now what we're going to do, each note of this arpeggio, I'm going to pick it 3 times. So we're going to have... Okay, that kind of thing. So what this is going to do, because we're picking each note more than once, now what's happening is there's now a different set of motions going on in each hand. In this hand, we've got one thing happening. One finger's coming down each time, right?
Yeah.
Well, now in this hand, now we have 3 things that are happening. So this makes the job of the brain much, much, much harder, because now it has to line up absolutely perfectly so that when this guy goes down, you're picking the right pick motion in this hand for the 2 to line up. Okay?
Yes.
So what I'm going to do, let's just take this reasonably slowly for now, and let's just pick each note 3 times.
Those only 2 times on this note.
Lose the vibrato for now. No vibrato.
Okay, cool.
That means stop. Okay, cool means don't play anymore.
Okay.
So this is already better. Okay, we're now getting these 2 hands much more in control. So what we do now, the same thing, but now we just want to pick harder. Okay, so when you pick harder, what this is going to do is actually going to help to get your 2 hands to be in sync even easier. So the harder you pick the string, what you're going to feel is that string is going to vibrate against your fingertip. Okay, you're actually going to feel it move into fingertip. So when you do this, especially when you play this even faster, in the very, very high speeds, it's this feeling of the string vibrating as the fingertip when you really pick that string hard that's going to help you to keep this in sync at higher speeds.
Your senses work at different speeds. Your eyesight works at different speeds. Your sense of touch works at different speeds. Your hearing works at different speeds. Okay, you're going to be able to feel the 2 hands being in sync once you've memorized what that feels like, probably faster than you're going to be able to hear it.
Yes.
Okay? So what Dan is saying is when you pick hard, you get that tactile feeling in the left hand against the right hand. You can feel it. Okay? So you now have 2 senses that are working to determine if you're in sync. You got your hearing and you got your sense of touch. Okay? And this works really fast. But even if it didn't work faster, the fact that you've got 2 senses instead of 1 is going to help you ensure that you know what it sounds like and feels like to be in sync. Because the faster you play, the harder and harder and harder and harder it's going to be to perceive if you're in sync or not. If you're playing 100 notes in a minute, that's not really fast. So you can probably hear it fairly well. But when you're playing 1,100 notes in a minute, it's way harder. And if you're playing 1,600 notes in a minute, it's incredibly hard. like astronomically incredibly hard. So you have to have some way to help ensure that you can sense, okay, this is what it's like when it's in sync. This is what it sounds like. This is what it feels like. Okay? If we recorded you playing and you listened back, if you played at 1,000 notes a minute and we recorded it and you listened back to it, if you listen carefully, you can probably, many times, you can probably tell when it's in sync and when it's not. But in real time, when you're really playing, it's harder because you only got one shot, right? But if you're using your hearing and your sense of touch, the chance of you correctly perceiving whether it's in sync or not goes way up. Dan knows this. He just didn't say it in so many words, but he knows all this stuff. So that's why he wants you to feel it. Take over.
Okay, cool. So let's do the same exercise again. So still going to pick each note 3 times.
Articulation.
Yeah, so now what we're going to do, I want you to pick the strings as hard as you can.
I'm going to add something to what Dan is saying. Do you have noise-canceling headphones at home?
No.
Do you have some really strong earplugs where you wouldn't be able to hear yourself playing acoustically if you stuck earplugs inside your head?
I don't think
They
so.
cost like, you know, what country are you from?
Denmark.
Okay, they're like €1. Okay?
Okay.
Go out and buy some. You can practice this exercise with the guitar off, earplugs in, and now you can't hear shit. Now it's all feel. Okay? I don't recommend practicing that way all the time, but when you're going to do this exercise for the purpose of trying to get the sensation of touch in your hands, eliminating your ears, the sense of hearing, will help you. First of all, you'll always know if you're picking hard enough because you'll have no choice. If you're not picking hard enough, you won't feel it. When we take away your sense of hearing and you can only go on the sense of touch, you have to pick hard enough to crank out the notes. Okay? Make sense?
Have to pick hard enough to feel it in my fingers.
Yeah, right. Because, yes, exactly. Exactly. Because if you can hear what's going on, how do you know? You can lose sight of or lose track of, am I really feeling this or am I just listening to it? You can kind of forget that, oh yeah, the point of all of this is I'm supposed to be feeling it, not just listening to it. That make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. If you do what Dan tells you to do, every time, every day, don't let yourself get distracted or bored as you're doing this. If you stick with this, the chance of you solving this problem is 100%. There is no other possible outcome. If you do what Dan says, then you completely mastering this. No other outcome is possible. Now, let me ask you a very important question. Will you make the commitment to yourself to follow this exactly every single time so that we solve this once and for all to get you from here to here so that next week Dan gets you from here to here? Are you ready for that?
Yes.
Are you certain you want
Yes.
this? Are you completely sure?
Absolutely.
Great to have you here.
Thanks.
Great to have you.
Thanks for the lesson.
You're welcome.